Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners because we have got some massive breaking news in the NFL just coming across the wire a few minutes ago that Atlanta Falcons star receiver Calvin Ridley suspended the entire 2022 season. Now, there is a lot of information coming out right now. So, before I kind of go into the breakdown of what may or may not happen, things of that nature, let me take a look back here of everything coming out and really catching you up to speed on why and what the repercussions are for the suspension. But coming out again a few minutes ago, Adam Schefter reporting via Twitter, the NFL suspending Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley for the 2022 season for betting on NFL games. Now, there was a copy of the letter sent to teams sent to Calvin Ridley that was obtained going over the specifications of why he ended up being suspended. Now, what they're saying at this point is that he was suspended for betting on games during the 2021 season, and the activity took place during a 5-day period in late November when Ridley was not with the team and was away from the close facility on non-football related illness list. Now again, Calvin Ridley last year ends up just disappearing and saying, I'm going to have to sit out, ends up coming back to saying that it had to do with his mental capacity at that time, whether you want to say mental awareness or mental, whatever it may be. It had to do with his mental state at that time, that he was needing to take some time off because he just couldn't handle everything going on at that time. It was one of those things where a lot of people understood, a lot of people wanted to be critics of it. There was a lot of different things going back and forth. But during that time, now it looks like he decided to spend 5 days betting on games, which, no bueno. And more than likely, it was probably, if they're saying in late November, I'm guessing it was probably over the course of like Thanksgiving Day games and then Saturday and Sunday games potentially. So it was probably during that time. Now, one big piece of this is that the league investigated that there was no evidence indicating any inside information was used or that any game was compromised in any way, nor is there any evidence suggesting any awareness by coaches, staff, teammates, or other players of his betting activity. Now, the one thing that we need to note here as well, that Ridley is suspended for at least all of 2022. Now, why do I say at least? Because Ridley may petition for reinstatement on or after February 15th. Coming from Tom Pellisario, he's going to have to apply for reinstatement, and they're going to have to approve that reinstatement. Now, he is also able to appeal the suspension within 3 days. So he may be appealing this. I'm not sure, but there is a possibility that himself and the Falcons have known about this for a while, because also reported by Adam Schefter right before I started recording that multiple NFL teams reached out to the Falcons in recent weeks to inquire about trading for Calvin Ridley, and each time Atlanta declined to enter into any talks out of good faith, knowing the issue was in store for their standout wide receiver, per sources. Now, that was tweeted by Adam Schefter a few minutes ago, so it is quite reasonable to think that both of the sides have known about this for quite some time, and if that is the case, there might not be any appeal that's needed here, because Calvin Ridley may have already had a chance to give him his side of the story, and they come to the conclusion that this is what's going to happen. He's going to be suspended all of 2022. Calvin Ridley also tweeted yesterday, I learned from my L's, which I'm assuming probably had something to do with this. And because of that, he probably knew this was also coming. Now, what does this mean for the Atlanta Falcons? Well, first and foremost, also from Tom Pellisario here, massive news on the suspension of Calvin Ridley, whose contract will toll during his at least 1 year suspension from the NFL, meaning that basically the year that he's supposed to be under contract this year is now going to move, like it's going to move back. So now he's going to be under contract through 2023 instead of 2022, and his 11.116 million salary will not be on the books for Atlanta this year. So that is going to have some wiggle room for Atlanta to do some different things if they want to. But again, it's going to push everything back. So now Calvin Ridley will be 1 year later into free agency than what we originally thought. And Calvin Ridley, even though he's one of the younger wide receivers in the league in terms of how long he's been in the league, he's not one of the younger wide receivers based on age. So hitting the market a year later is not great news for Calvin Ridley. And honestly, it might not be great news for the Atlanta Falcons, who they have a lot wrapped up in Matt Ryan right now and other people. They are not in the best situation in terms of their cap hits and needing to rebuild this franchise, which is where they're getting to at this point in time. So lots of different information here, and I'm sure over the course of the next couple of hours, couple of days, couple of weeks, we're going to find out even more about this. No idea what games he betted on. Apparently they were parlays, so he's been betting on multiple games. I don't know if he was doing like prop bets and things of that nature, but he was betting on games, which is a big no-no when you're a pro athlete. You're not supposed to be doing that. And even though we've gotten to a point here in our society where betting is becoming more and more, accustomed to what we do in our everyday life, and people, are starting to do it more and more. If you're a pro athlete, it's a no. You shouldn't be doing it. So unfortunately, he's going to have to take this suspension here and probably deal with at least 1 year. Now, based on the information they currently have, maybe there's nothing really sticking out for them to say, yeah, he's going to be suspended another season. So maybe for 2022, that's going to end up being it. So like if you're in a dynasty league, if you own Calvin Ridley in a long-term league, at this point, it might be a while before you get anything for him. But unless you need the roster space, you just got to hold him. There's nothing that you can do at this point. No one's going to trade for him. No one, even if they did, they're not going to give you anything of any substance. So what's the point? And if you just cut him and drop him and he does come back in 2023 and he's back to the Calvin Ridley that we used to see, even though that's a year out, you're still going to regret getting rid of him at that point. So unless you're, in a league that is really forcing your hand on who you're going to keep and who you're not, and you don't have room for him, I'm not keeping him. In any 2022 leagues that are keeper leagues, I'm not keeping him for 2022, honestly. What does it mean for the rest of this team, though? Well, Cordarrelle Patterson, getting Cordarrelle Patterson back and getting him implemented into the game plan the way he was at the beginning of the year is a must. Kyle Pitts is really going to have to take another step forward this year, and he's going to have to be utilized as a wide receiver even more than he was last year, maybe even on the outside a little bit more than he was in the slot. And really, they're going to have to add to this team in some way, shape, or form. They are really going to have to find a way to get this team moving. Now, who is it going to be? We still have all of free agency and we still have the draft to really figure that out. As far as free agency goes, they're not going to have a whole lot of money, so I don't expect any upper tier signings to be made at this point. As far as the draft goes, they have so many needs at this point. I don't know if drafting a wide receiver makes a ton of sense for them. However, because this is really a team that needs to rebuild, take the best youngest player available. So if Atlanta's up on the board and they feel like they've got a really good shot at a wide receiver, they may go with a younger wide receiver. And that may be needed to really help salvage even Matt Ryan's fantasy value this year and Kyle Pitts. I don't know if Kyle Pitts, he's a great athlete, a great player, but I don't know if he's got what it takes to be a true wide receiver one on a team. If they're going to have to move him outside more often and he's going to be getting faced up against cornerback ones, those are going to be really difficult matchups for him. He's best utilized in the slot where he can be a big-time mismatch. So they need to keep him there, which means they're going to have to add somebody to the outside, whether it be the draft or through free agency. And if it's through free agency, it's not going to be anyone decent. I'm sorry to tell you. They just don't have the cap space. But this is a really big hit to this team because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're not headed in the right direction right now. Obviously, Carolina, they're kind of all over the place. New Orleans in a really bad situation. This was a prime opportunity for Atlanta to step up and compete in that division this year. And losing Calvin Ridley is really going to hurt that. So it does do the Atlanta Falcons some justice to try and get somebody ability to help out Matt Ryan in that offense because they have a legitimate shot. It's just they're not really going to have a whole lot of money to do it with free agency. So really, if it's going to happen, it's going to be through the draft. So that's what we're going to need to take a look at. If someone's drafted by Atlanta, what does that truly mean for them? Russell Gage was really good at the end of last year. But again, is Russell Gage a wide receiver one? I think he's best served as the two. If he's the two, that's great. So there's a lot of things that we're going to keep an eye on. And again, things are going to keep coming out with this, and we're going to have more information and knowledge sent our way. I expect the Atlanta Falcons to really take somebody in the draft now. Maybe if it's not super early on, they try to go for some guys a little bit later that can really step up potentially and be contributors at some point this season. I expect some lower tier signings in free agency just to kind of help fill that position room. And other than that, they're just going to have to hope that Calvin Ridley's reinstatement comes back next year. And then at that point, maybe they can move him and trade him away and get someone to pick up that contract. Unfortunately, I don't know if his return is going to be that good. But do me a favor before you get out of here. Hit that like button for me for getting this breaking news out so quickly for you. Leave a comment down below. Where do you think things go from here? Do you think Calvin Ridley deserved to be suspended for the entire 2022 season? Why or why not? And then also, if you're new here at the Fantasy Headliners, you got to subscribe for me. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. Appreciate everybody checking out this video. Stay safe. Stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on third down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that chub life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation. I'm a headliner.